All right, let's get right into it. Today, we are unpacking one of the most intense and honestly often overlooked stories in the book of Genesis. It's the story of Judah and his daughter-in-law Tamar. And trust me, it's a wild ride. A story about duty, deception, and one woman's absolutely incredible fight for justice. But before we dive into the nitty-gritty, I want to start with a question for you, because it really gets to the heart of this whole thing. How far would you be willing to go to claim what you are owed, to secure your future when it feels like every single door has been slammed shut in your face? Just keep that question in the back of your mind as we go through Tamar's story.
So, our story kicks off with two main characters. You've got Judah, who is one of Jacob's 12 sons, and then you have Tamar, the woman he chose to marry his firstborn. Their lives are about to get tangled up in a web of tradition, tragedy, and a really serious obligation.
Now, to understand anything that happens next, you have to get this one concept: levirate marriage. And this wasn't just a friendly suggestion, it was a deeply rooted societal law. The rule was, if a man died childless, his brother had a duty to marry the widow. Their first son would then be considered the heir of the dead brother. This did two things. It continued the family line, and, maybe most importantly, it gave the widow security. For her, this wasn't just a tradition, it was her only safety net.
For Tamar, this system immediately turns into a total nightmare. She marries Judah's first son, but the text just says he was wicked, and so he dies. So as the law required, she's then given to the second son, Onan. But Onan's not having it. He knows the child won't technically be his heir, so he refuses to do his duty. And for that, he dies too. Just like that. Boom, boom. Tamar is a widow twice over, and she's still childless.
So now the responsibility falls to Judah's third and youngest son, Shelah. But at this point, you can imagine Judah is starting to get spooked. He's seeing a pattern here, and he is not about to risk his last son. And this is where a promise gets made that was never meant to be kept.
Judah tells Tamar, hey, go back to your father's house and just wait. Wait until my son Shelah is old enough. On the surface, it sounds pretty reasonable, right? Just a temporary delay. But what he was actually thinking was something else entirely. Yeah, the text is crystal clear about what was going on in Judah's head. He was thinking, what if Shelah dies too, just like his brothers? He was convinced Tamar was some kind of bad luck charm, and he was basically just trying to get her out of the family to protect his last son. He had absolutely zero intention of ever calling her back.
And this is what makes Tamar's situation so desperate. She's been left in total limbo. I mean, think about it. In that society, being a childless widow with no ties to a man's family meant you had nothing. No social standing, no money, no future, no protection. Judah basically sentenced her to a life of being invisible.
So, years go by. Shelah is all grown up, but that call from Judah, it never comes. Tamar finally realizes that promise was completely hollow. She understands that if she wants the justice, the family, the future that she is owed by law, she's going to have to take it herself. And her plan is, well, it's nothing short of audacious.
Her plan is so methodical, it's brilliant. First, she takes out the clothes that identify her as a widow. Second, she veils her face, making herself anonymous. Third, she picks the perfect spot, a place on a road she knows Judah is going to travel down. And then she just waits. Every single step is deliberate.
And sure enough, just as she predicted, here comes Judah. We're told his own wife had recently passed away. He sees this veiled woman by the road, assumes she's a prostitute, and he propositions her. He has absolutely no idea who he's talking to.
So Judah doesn't have the payment on him, a young goat. He tells her, I'll send it to you later. But Tamar is way too smart for that. She's not falling for another empty promise. She asks for a pledge, some collateral. And what she asks for? Well, this is the key to her whole plan.
She doesn't ask for coins. She asks for three very specific, very personal items: his signet, his bracelets, and his staff. Now back then, these weren't just trinkets. The signet was like his signature, used to seal contracts. The staff was a symbol of his authority, his identity as a family leader. These items were basically Judah's ID card. They were undeniable proof of who he was.
So the trap is set and it's sprung. Judah gives her the pledge, she becomes pregnant, and then she vanishes, puts her widow's clothes back on, and she waits. Fast forward 3 months, and it is time for the day of reckoning. Of course, word gets around. Someone runs to Judah and says, hey, your daughter-in-law, Tamar, the one who is supposed to be living a quiet widow's life, she's pregnant. And the immediate conclusion everyone jumps to is that she's been unfaithful, which was a huge crime.
And Judah, wow, acting as the head of the family, the judge, he doesn't miss a beat. The hypocrisy is just staggering. With no trial, no questions, he hands down this brutal sentence for the very woman he wronged. Bring her out and let her be burned. He condemns her to death for a situation that he himself created. But Tamar has been waiting for this exact moment. As they're dragging her out to be executed, she's not crying or begging. Nope. Instead, she sends a little package with a message directly to the man who just sentenced her to death.
And here it is, the checkmate moment. She presents the evidence, and her message is simple. I'm pregnant by the man who owns these things. And then she puts it right back on him, in front of everybody. Take a close look. Do you recognize these? She doesn't even have to say his name. She makes him accuse himself.
The public humiliation must have been just total. The proof is right there, it's undeniable. In that moment, Judah has a choice. He can double down on his lie and have her killed, or he can own up to the truth.
And what happens next is a complete 180. That harsh, angry judgment is replaced by a quiet, public confession. He looks at the evidence and he says, "She is more righteous than I." And why? Because, he admits, he failed his duty. He never gave her to his son Shelah like he was supposed to.
In that one sentence, everything changes. Tamar's life is saved, her honor is restored, and, most importantly, her child will now be a legitimate heir in Judah's family line. She didn't just survive this, she won. She secured her future and her legacy against all odds.
And her victory is more than she could have even planned for. She doesn't just get one heir, she gives birth to twin boys, Perez and Zerah. In a system that tried to erase her, she has now ensured the continuation of the family line, ×2.
The story ends with one final, dramatic little twist. During the birth, one of the twins, Zara, sticks his hand out first. The midwife actually ties a scarlet thread around it to mark him as the firstborn, but then he pulls his hand back in and his brother Perez breaks forth and is born first. It's this chaotic, fittingly dramatic end to her whole struggle, a final symbol of how she broke through every barrier put in her way.
So we end right where we started. Was what Tamar did a cynical act of deception? Or was it a courageous, calculated fight for justice in a system that gave her absolutely no other choice? The story itself calls her the more righteous one, which leaves us with a really powerful thought to chew on. What does justice even look like when the people in power refuse to provide it?